Backed by science is one of Gatorade's core tenets, and one of the many ways the Gatorade Sports Science Institute supports the brand. GSSI's headquarter lab, mobile and satellite laboratories, and on-the-field testing enable GSSI to do leading research with the aim of providing athletes with advice and products that help them perform and achieve their goals. GSSI has four pillars, or four key work programs. The GSSI education team produces educational programs and materials for the continuing education of athletes, their influencers, and members of the sports science community. The education team has created a robust library of learning materials, including tips and handouts, posters, e-newsletters, sports science exchange articles, and performance playbooks. The Elite Athlete Service Team is dedicated to working with athletes, teams, and trade partners around the world to support their athletic performance. The team's work includes physical testing, nutrition, sports science consulting, and translation of data. Our innovation team looks to the future and focuses on potential functional ingredients and also new technologies that may enhance our research and service programs, as well as support brand initiatives. GSSI was originally founded as a research group, and the results of the research program have helped drive superior formulations in both product taste and functionality, presented at scientific conferences and published in peer-reviewed journals. GSSI's four pillars ensure Gatorade is continually backed by science.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to all our, should I say, season athletes, sports enthusiasts, weekend warriors, once a week warrior, any kind of athlete out there. Welcome to this year's Gatorade Sports Science Institute webinar 2022. How about a round of applause, please? Round of applause. Come on, guys. My colleagues here in our studio. My name is Chicky Reyes, and I will be with you for the next 6 weeks. Imagine, we're going to be together until September 29. Beautiful. We got four now webinar episodes for you guys all the way up to the end of September. But more than welcoming you guys to GSSI webinar 2022, I'd like to welcome you guys back into sports. My goodness, right? It's been a while, right? It's been a while. I mean, let's go back. March of 2020, all of a sudden, we all stopped our favorite activities. I stopped playing basketball, my personal experience. I stopped swimming, biking, running, and I was stuck in my own backyard. I converted my backyard, my garage, into my skip rope area. That's right. I went into skip rope. What else did I do? I jogged in place. I went calisthenics, stretching, lifting whatever I could, from big water bottles to light water bottles, sandbags, whatever I could put my hands on. But still, nothing beats into going outdoors, diba? Playing under the sun, playing in your favorite court, playing in your favorite pitch, hitting that pool, that beach. But it took us a while before we could go out and play again, right? So, but when we started going out, we realized it's not as easy after being stuck at home for almost 2 years. It's not easy to go back and to ease ourselves into our favorite activities, right? So that's why we have started our GSSI webinar with our first episode. How can we go back slowly, ease our way into our favorite sports again? And that's the reason why we have our pros, our guest speakers for today, to educate us on how we could safely go back to our routine. So I hope you could stay with us for what? About an hour and a half this afternoon, because we'll be having two special speakers, and of course you have our guest athletes who will help us by telling their may mga theories tayo. We got theories, and we got testimonies, actual experiences, point of view of our athletes on how they went back into their favorite sports and routines. Okay, but before we go into deep into our discussion, our webinar topics today, allow me, because it's been a year, right? More than a year since I last saw all of you in our GSSI webinar 2021. Allow me to explain again or refresh your memories. So what is GSSI, and what is this webinar series all about. Okay, here we go. GSSI started as Gatorade Exercise Physiology Lab way back in 1985 before it became the Gatorade Sports Science Institute that we know today. And GSSI's long-standing mission is to help athletes and sports enthusiasts globally optimize their health and performance through research and education in hydration and nutrition science. Wait, there's more. Bringing sports science beyond the lab, GSSI aims to continuously find innovative ways to spread the science of hydration and nutrition to who? Coaches. Who else? Nutritionists, athletes, and sports communities the world over. And so, in an effort to reach more sports enthusiasts despite obvious limitations, here we are today in the Gatorade Philippines Facebook Live for another GSSI webinar focused on sports and wellness topics led by our scientists and, of course, our experts. Now, speaking about sports and wellness, we'll be tackling strength, conditioning, and injury prevention tips. I'll say that again, okay? Strength, conditioning, and injury prevention tips. We'll also be talking about how nutrition and hydration play in all of this and how they can prevent injury and aid recovery from dehydration. So, loaded. Today's loaded. Allow me to tell you what's the lineup for today, okay? For today, we'll have strength conditioning and injury prevention for the return to sports by Coach Kale Alvarez. After that, we'll have our nutrition and hydration for return to sports injury prevention and recovery in heat by Liam Brown. And then we'll have our Q&A with our speakers. After that, we'll have our open discussion. Maganda to, na freewheeling discussion with our special guests. We have our professional basketball players, our PBA players, Sean Ildefonso and the General L.A. Tenorio. Okay, so make sure that you stick with us for the next hour and a half because we will have a very nice first session with all of you. Now, remember, let me remind you, okay, this is not a one-way conversation. This is a two-way conversation and would like to invite all of you to please send your questions regarding these topics by putting your comments down below. And we would be glad to discuss these during the Q&A and open discussion portion later on. Plus, wait, there's more. We will have some nice Gatorade prizes that we'll be giving you guys, okay? If you get lucky in our trivia session later on, ano meron? We have this very nice Nothing Beats Gatorade gray t-shirt. Very nice, you know? It looks slim in it if you if you wear it. We're gonna give you also. Oh, I like this. The socks, Gatorade socks. Okay, you can wear it in your favorite running shoes, cross training shoes, your sneakers when you go around and you do your activities outside your house. And syempre, you have to stay hydrated. You need this, the Gatorade bottle. Okay, you can either hold it, good grip, or if you're cycling, put it in your bottle cage there. Okay, fits perfectly. All of these things will be put inside this very nice backpack that you can bring with you. Easy to wear when you're playing ball, football, volleyball, cycling, swimming. You can put your stuff in here. So, how do you get that? Later on, towards the end of the show, we'll have our trivia questions, and the first to answer 8 questions. First to answer will get the price that I have mentioned. Okay, all of that. Now, for those of you who would like to receive a certificate of attendance, don't worry. Be happy because we'll make sure that you'll have that chance as well. Because at the end of the video, the live video, okay, take note, not the recorded video, but at the end of the live video, we'll be flashing a QR code for you to sign up and answer a quick survey. Let me say that reminder again. You cannot do that when you watch it when it's uploaded already on Facebook later on. You have to watch the live show, wait for that QR code until the end, sign up, answer the survey, and that's when you can get a chance to get that certificate of attendance. So, having said that, stick around, folks, because today, I promise you, we promise you, it's going to be an interesting session as we welcome back everyone to sports. My teammates, how about another round of applause? Come on, guys. Yes! And so, parang ang dami namin dito, di ba? Without any further ado, we will start with our first topic as we get to know our speaker, who is a strength and conditioning specialist, the founder and CEO of Sistos, formerly Kinetic Core Philippines, and a Gatorade Sports Science Institute international advisor. He also has a bachelor's degree, sports management, sports science, and physical education from the University of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, warriors of all kinds, give it up for Coach Kale Alvarez. Woohoo! Hi, Coach
Hi,
Kale.
Chiki. Good afternoon. How are you? Good to see you again,
I,
buddy.
I'm good, Coach. Good afternoon. And alam mo, I was thinking about it. It's been over a year because we had this July, if I'm not mistaken, of
Yes, last
2021.
year.
It's been over a year since I've last seen you virtually, and I'd like to ask you first. How are you, Coach? How are you doing? How's the family? How's the personal life? How's business doing right now with Coach Kale?
I'm good. I'm good. Actually, we reopened a new clinic here in Green Hills, and actually preparing for uh, this coming October. So actually, the topic today is perfect.
Fantastic. And you said the topic today because you know what, Coach? Apart from people like you or seasoned athletes or weekend warriors like me and Ton Gat Maitan, a lot of people would like to find out what would be the best way to ease themselves back into sports. So, to all our viewers, without any further ado, I now present to you once more Coach Kale. Take it away, Coach.
All right. Good afternoon to all the viewers, or probably good morning to others who are watching from other countries. I am Coach Kale Alvarez. So let's start off easy, okay? Pretty much what the basics that the human body needs before we dive into specifics of being an athlete. So let's start off with our slides. Okay, so welcome back to sports. So strength and conditioning and how we can return to sport. Next slide, please. So next slide, please. Okay, so to start off, okay, our children, for sure, definitely, we have a lot of student athletes out here watching, or our children who are student athletes. So for these ages, from 5 to 17 years old, it's recommended to do an average of 60 minutes a day of moderate to vigorous intensity of activity or physical activity. So you want to be able to combine it. So you don't necessarily need to just do a moderate session today, or you can actually and then do a vigorous one tomorrow, or you can combine it. Okay, but for this one, you want to do this with mostly aerobic. Okay, for the kids, and then it's also recommended to do at least 3 times 3 days a week of muscular strength exercises. So, why is this important? Again, our children or the youth in this age are still developing, and you want to be able to develop them, and prepare them accordingly. And I'm stating this one as baseline fitness. Okay, not even specific to athletes yet. So this is just baseline fitness for literally everybody. Okay, next slide, please. All right, for adults 18 to 64 years, now it's recommended to do anywhere from 150 to 300 minutes a week. Again, a combination of moderate intensity and vigorous intensity. Now, if you're going to do vigorous intensity, you can drop it down to 75 to 150 minutes a week. So, doesn't necessarily mean that you'll just stick with moderate intensity or vigorous intensity. It's best to mix it up. You can do alternating days, or you can actually combine it in one session. It's also recommended to still do muscular strength exercises involving major muscle groups. Now, for this bigger range of age, you want to do this at least 2 days a week. So, this is just again baseline fitness for everybody. Okay, so what classifies as moderate and vigorous? So, moderate intensity physical activity will be your brisk walk. Okay, probably a light bike ride, just an easy pace, probably anywhere from 15 to 20 kilometers per hour. You can do house chores as well. So these are pretty much your moderate ones. Not too taxing, easy breathing, no high demand with the muscles. And now some vigorous intensity exercises would be your sporting games. So when you play your basketball, your football, let's go back again to cycling, a quick bike ride or a faster paced bike ride, now over 20 kilometers per hour. So those are your vigorous intensity exercise examples. I mentioned aerobic exercises. So when we do aerobic exercises, these are your low to moderate intensity exercises, gradually bringing our heart rate up. And this is where oxygen is actively utilized by our muscles, hence the word aerobic. So again, I gave some example, and I can give some example like you're jogging, you're swimming, cycling. So pretty much the long duration exercises or sports will need a higher demand of aerobic capacity. Okay, of course, we mentioned aerobic. I should also mention anaerobic. So anaerobic exercises are a little bit higher in intensity, or really higher in intensity. And these are the movement or the short bursts that we do. And the energy source that we use here primarily is glycogen. So, what are some examples? So, resistance training or weight training, sprinting, jumping, hit or high intensity interval training. So these are your quick bursts. Normally, when we say anaerobic, these aren't the types of movement that can be done in long durations. So again, it's just a quick burst. You can do it over and over, but it's not something that you can do continually as compared to aerobic exercises. Next slide, please. Okay, for sports performance, it's highly dependent on health and skill related components of fitness. Okay, so when we say skill related components, these are our power, speed, agility, reaction time, coordination, balance, and body composition. Actually, body composition plays a big role in sports performance. Of course, not to mention technique and sport-specific motor skills. Okay, for you to be able to perform well in your sport or in your chosen sport, you have to be able to cover those things that I've mentioned. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, still in sports performance, so we have the SAID principle, specific adaptations to impose demands. So what is this? So when we say SAID principle, we want to be able to do preparation or exercises specific to the activities that we will do. So if your chosen sport is basketball, you want to be able to prepare yourself and do specific exercises that leads to running, change of direction, landing, jumping, of course, shooting, and bumping against your opponent. Now, when we say specific adaptations, we don't take it too literally. So, for example, a tennis player. So the tennis player will hold onto a racket as the equipment used in tennis, right? So we're not gonna do like, okay, I want to increase my swingness. I'm gonna hold on to a dumbbell and swing that dumbbell all around back and forth. So that's actually gonna be more hurtful than it can actually lead to injuries as opposed to giving you um, adaptations for sports performance. So when I say, okay, a tennis player that wants to improve his or her swing, whether it's forehand or backhand, we want to first identify the movement. So in tennis, whether it's a forehand or a backhand, that's a trunk rotation movement. So what we want to do is to increase strength in trunk rotation. So I can do some pile of presses with the bands and then I'll rotate, or I can do dumbbell chops. So those are the specific exercises that can lead to good sports performance in terms of tennis or swinging my tennis racket, whether it is forehand or backhand. So that's what I mean when we say specific adaptations to imposed demands. We don't want to take it too literally. All right. Another example would be, okay, if you're a football player and you want to kick better or stronger, you're not gonna kick a medicine ball, right? Because that's gonna hurt you, obviously. So you want to do is to strengthen your hips and strengthen your legs. So when you do that, you will be able to develop more strength in your kicking power. So it doesn't end with just training with strength. As I mentioned, you want to be able to cover skill related components. So first you train with strength, then you train muscular endurance, then you train for power. Okay. So that's how we are able to do the specific adaptations. Next slide, please. Okay, still under sports performance. So we have the theory of supercompensation. So with this one, I know everybody is excited to improve or get back into sport, so they keep training. Train, 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 train. But we need to remember that recovery is part of training. You can't just keep pushing yourself because exercise is a form of stress. Now, if you don't give yourself enough time to recover, whether it's active recovery or passive recovery, you will definitely injure yourself at some point, okay? And or hit a plateau. This is when you feel like you're not improving anymore. This is where you feel like, okay, you're gonna tell yourself, I've been training for weeks and weeks and weeks, probably months already, and I feel that I haven't improved that much. And when that happens, that's due to, again, lack of recovery. So as you can see here in our slide, so you want to be able, so every time you hit or you do an exercise or when you do your training, we go down into the curve, and then we, as we hit recovery or as we do your recovery, we will go back up, and as we hit the status quo or the regular uh, status of our fitness, that's when we pass, and the super compensation will kick in from your training. So that's what you want to do. You train, you rest, you go up, you go a higher level, you train, you rest, go up another level in your performance. So you want to go ladder one step higher each time. So there's no jump from base level all the way to a high level. So you want to take it nice and easy. So when we do this, again, it's good to have a periodization program so that you know how to push yourself, when to hold back, and when certain criteria are supposed to be met, such as uh, training for base strength, training for endurance and muscular endurance, and then hitting power, of course, not to mention flexibility or and mobility exercises. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, getting back into sport from the pandemic or from the lockdown, not everybody is lucky enough to avoid COVID. I'm sure some athletes or some of us have succumbed to COVID, and you're lucky if you've been asymptomatic. You're lucky if you didn't have serious symptoms. But regardless, we want to be able to come back accordingly. So you don't want to just come back to sport right away without proper preparation. So when we come back to sport, specifically or especially coming from COVID-19 illness, we want to be able to assign levels of risk. So because depending on the degree or the intensity of COVID that you've attained, you will also have several levels on how you should come back into training or into sport or into other physical activity for that matter. And having said that, there should be specific recommendations to each level before we start or get back into exercise. I'm sure some of you have seen or have felt after getting COVID, and then you, even if you rest a couple of months and then you've recovered good, and then you go back to sport, you feel like there's still heaviness in your breath, or you still feel that probably some sensation of the COVID lingering or some of the symptoms lingering. And that's where good screening and being cleared by your physician comes in. I know all of us are excited to come back, especially the student athletes when they go back to their club teams or varsity teams. They're itching to go back to playing. Definitely, I'm guilty of that as well. I want to go back right away, but you want to be able to get screened and cleared by your physician so that your physician can give good recommendations and where you can actually go and find yourself a strength and conditioning coach or any other fitness coach for that matter to prepare you accordingly. This is where actually um, the saying, the mind is willing but the body is not, kicks in. I mean, you think that you can play, but your body is not prepared. Okay, so physically we are not ready to get back into that level, that pre-pandemic level that we think we're still in. And as we return to training activities, we want to do this gradually. You don't want to just go in and go all out your first day of training. Just to share some experience with this, a few of my athletes have stopped training during the lockdown. Not everyone is lucky enough to have access to gyms or to have their own to own their equipment at home, exercise equipment at home. So they either got demoralized because they feel that they can do anything. One athlete that I used to train, a tennis player I used to train, got hurt first day of training. As he served the ball, he threw his back and called me up, coach. I threw my back again, blah blah blah. And first thing I told him, this, you got this in your first day of training. And he goes, yes, coach. Did you do any preparation prior your first day of training? No, coach. What did you do? Online class. And there you go. If you've been sitting for months and months not training and then suddenly go back into any form of physical activity, don't be surprised if you get hurt. So you want to do this gradually. And again, there's no shame actually in stepping back and doing it properly and gradually, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to prolong. If you're an athlete, you want to be able to prolong your playing years. Now, if you get injured, depends on the injury, it may cut some years of your playing career. Now, if you're not a professional athlete, I'm sure if I play basketball every weekend, I still want to be able to play basketball every weekend, even when I'm 60 years old. So you want to be able to prepare yourself for that by gradually returning now to your regular activities. Okay, next slide, please. Yep, next slide, please. So there you go. That pretty much sums it up. Thank you. Again, this is Coach Kale Alvarez. Please stay because I'm sure there will be questions. So I hope to see you guys later in the Q&A.
Wow. Thank you very much, Coach Kale. And I hope you just stay in the backstage and background there because we'll be having one more speaker. And Coach, we have a lot of questions here already. We'll try to pull them out later on as our viewers
Sure
would
thing.
like to ask you
Looking forward to
these
it.
questions. Thanks, Coach. Thank you, Coach Kale. Virtual round of applause, guys. Come on, Coach Kale. And I'd like to say hello first to our more than 5,000 viewers right now on Facebook. Thank you, guys. Spread the word. People can still catch up and watch us because we got one more speaker coming up. But before that, we'd like to invite all of you, send your questions, okay, regarding these topics by giving your comments down low. We have our whole team here. They'll try to put the questions together, and we'll be glad to pick some of these and discuss them during our Q&A and open discussion. Also, don't forget that if you want to get a chance to win any of the prize I mentioned, the shirt, the socks, the bag, the bottle, all you got to do is stay with us until the end of our webinar because we got eight, not one, not two, but eight trivia questions, and 8 people will be lucky to bring home that nice backpack. And finally, you can receive a certification of attendance if you watch until the end. Wait for that QR code, scan it, answer the quick survey during the live, okay, at the end of the show, and then you'll get that certificate of attendance. Okay, so Coach Kale will put him on one side because we're going to introduce our next speaker. And our next speaker up next, he has a bachelor's degree in nutrition and food science from the University of Reading, a master's degree in sports nutrition from Liverpool John Moores University, and is currently a Gatorade Sports Science Institute scientist. Okay, last time I saw him was over a year ago as well. Let's all welcome and give a very warm round of applause to Mr. Liam Brown. Woo!
Hey, Cheeky.
Hi, Liam. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, first of all, share with the people watching us right now. Where are you specifically, Liam?
So I'm in the UK at the moment, so it's nice and early here at the moment, nearly 10 a.m. in the morning. But yeah, ready to present to everyone today.
Fantastic. I hope you've had your breakfast already because we're excited to hear what you're going to present to our viewers. So again, our next guest speaker for today, round of applause from Mr. Liam Brown.
So thank you very much. It's great to be back presenting to you all today. I've learned a lot from Coach Kale already, and I know we have a brilliant lineup of speakers coming up over the next month or two, and we have a great lineup today as well. So it's great to see sport opening up again, and you're all able to return to playing and watching sport. So if we could start with the slides, please. So today I'll talk about nutrition and hydration for the return to sport, and this will focus on making sure you're prepared whilst also limiting the risk of injury, as well as focusing on recovery after exercise. Next slide, please. So just before we start, a reminder of who I am. As Cheeky mentioned, I'm Liam. I'm a scientist for the Gatorade Sports Science Institute. And in my role, I support education and service initiatives internationally, including our support with our Gatorade partner clubs, including Manchester City Football Club and FC Barcelona. Next slide, please. So today I'll focus the talk around 3 different aspects. So this will be energy, focusing on fueling and recovery, hydration, which is particularly important in the heat, and then also structure or protein for recovery. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, part of this talk will be about reducing the risk of injury as we return to sport. Now, it's important to say here that it's simply not possible to prevent injury, but instead it's possible to reduce the risk of injury. But to reduce the risk, we must first understand some of the risks of injury, so some of the reasons that we might get injured. Now, there are many different factors that can contribute to how likely you are to become injured, but today we'll focus on those aspects that are directly related to nutrition. So some of these risks include having a low energy intake or particularly high demands of sport. And these two factors could lead to inadequate fueling, so not providing enough energy for the body. Now, vitamin and mineral deficiencies also increase injury risk, as well as limited recovery periods. So let's think about soccer or football or basketball, where there might be multiple games over a short period of time, and there really is limited recovery periods to be able to recover between these exercise sessions. So this is just a few examples of factors that may contribute to injury risk. There are many more, but I'll focus my talk today around these particular aspects. Next slide, please. So I'll start today by talking about energy. Why? Because as we mentioned, inadequate fueling may increase the risk of injury. Next slide, please. So when we think about energy, we can compare it to a car engine. So as we know, if we want our car to move, we need to put fuel in the car. And the more fuel the car has, the further the car can go. And the same applies for the human body. However, the human body uses 3 different fuel sources. The main source of fuel that we'll focus on today is carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are the fuel for high intensity exercise. Next slide, please. So because carbohydrates are the main type of fuel for high intensity exercise, it's important to meet carbohydrate recommendations when exercising. The reason is to ensure you provide the body with adequate amounts of energy to fuel your movement and reduce the risk of injury. So I won't go into this slide in too much detail because you'll have this slide available to you on the Facebook Philippines page afterwards. But just as an example, I've wrote down the recommendations for daily carbohydrate recommendations and the recommendations to fuel performance around exercise. So you can see on the left-hand side, as intensity and duration of exercise increases, daily carbohydrate recommendations also increase. So it's important to adapt carbohydrate intake depending on the level of physical activity to sufficiently fuel our bodies. Now, during exercise, on the right-hand side, recommendations get more specific. So carbohydrate recommendations are provided before and during exercise to fuel the exercise, and then they're also provided after exercise to help with that recovery process. Next slide, please. So we'll focus on the during exercise recommendations specifically. And we can see that it's recommended to consume around 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour of exercise. But these recommendations are specifically important when exercise is greater than 60 minutes of exercise or when there's a performance goal. So for other types of exercise, the body can use fat as a fuel. And we'll discuss a little bit later why this might become important. Next slide, please. So when we return to sport, it's really important to build a strategy. And to do this, we first of all need to understand our energy requirements and then build a plan around this. So within this plan, there's a few different aspects that we should consider. The first of which is the opportunities that we have to fuel. So if we take basketball as an example, you have the opportunity to fuel each quarter within the breaks. So within training, we want to try and replicate these opportunities so we can be as prepared as possible when we return to competition. So ultimately, by preparing in training, you will become more prepared when you get to that exercise session where performance is key. You should also plan to meet the carbohydrate recommendations, which were listed on the slide earlier. And as I mentioned, you can go back and look at these later if you wish. And then importantly, you should also allow the body the time to adapt. So when we return to sport, our bodies might not be ready to consume high amounts of fuel, especially if we haven't been doing that for a long period of time. So what we should do is we should start slowly by consuming some carbohydrates and build up to meeting your recommendations over time. We recommend about a minimum of 2 weeks for this. So if we go from eating not a lot of fuel to eating high amounts of carbohydrate in one go, this could ultimately lead to discomfort in the gut. And obviously none of us want this, especially when exercising or trying to perform. So building this plan and starting slowly can help build confidence, it can help improve gut comfort, and ultimately help support performance and a successful return to sport. Next slide, please. So that covers carbohydrates, and the next part that I'll talk about is hydration. Hydration is obviously especially important in the heat, and I know it's meant to be around 30 degrees in the Philippines at the moment, which especially for me is very hot. So hydration is specifically important in these type of conditions. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, hydration really is important for a number of reasons. And the first of these reasons is that the body is actually made up of 60% water. So a huge amount of our body consists of water. Now, if we lose greater than 2% of our body mass because of dehydration, our performance may begin to decrease. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, when we exercise, we can become dehydrated. In dehydration often occurs because we consume less fluid through drinking and we lose more fluid through things like sweating. So we all sweat when we exercise, but on average, athletes will sweat around 1 to 2 litres per hour, meaning they lose about 1 to 2 litres of fluid via sweat per hour of exercise. But it's important to note that every single person will sweat a different amount, and different factors can affect the amount we sweat. So for example, the hotter it is, the more we'll sweat, and the more intense the exercise is, the more we'll sweat as well. The reason we sweat is because it helps cool our bodies, which is one of the main reasons that hydration is so important, especially during exercise. But importantly, we don't just lose water when we sweat, we also lose electrolytes. 2 of the main electrolytes that we lose are sodium and potassium. And again, we lose these at different levels between individuals. And I'll talk about why this is important to replace electrolytes we lose later. Next slide, please. So previously, much of the research in sweat loss had been done in Western populations, but more recently, research has been carried out in tropical native runners in Thailand. So this research, which was supported by GSSI and led by Dr. Jufamard and Dr. Jason Lee, found that sweat rate and sweat composition, so the amount of fluid we lose and the amount of sodium we lose whilst we sweat, in tropical native runners are similar to the reported values seen in the Western populations. So ultimately, this suggests that current hydration recommendations are suitable in environments we see in Thailand, which are obviously similar in terms of the heat and humidity to what we see in the Philippines as well. Next slide, please. So that brings us on to the hydration recommendations. Recommendations focus on hydrating before exercise, to prepare, during exercise, to limit dehydration and related performance decrements if we lose greater than 2% of body mass, and after exercise to recover and replace the fluid that we've lost. Next slide, please. But as I mentioned earlier, it's not just fluid we lose in our sweat, but we also lose sodium. And consuming sodium in a beverage around exercise can help, 1, replace what we lose in sweat. So we know we lose sodium, and consuming a beverage with sodium can help replace what we lose. But it's also been shown to help increase fluid intake, to support the distribution of the fluid around the body, and also to help us retain fluid. So we don't lose the fluid that we're consuming, or we don't lose as much as we would if the beverage didn't contain sodium. So overall, consuming a beverage that contains sodium can support our hydration. Next slide, please. So again, when preparing to return to sport, we should think about our hydration strategies, and we should build up to requirements to allow our bodies to adapt. Now, there's two different strategies that we can follow when we're looking at hydration around exercise. So we can either drink when we're thirsty, which might be a useful strategy when exercise is shorter durations, cooler, or at lower intensities, because we might sweat less in these conditions. Or we could plan and personalize our hydration strategy, which becomes more important when performance is a focus, or when we exercise longer, in hotter conditions, or at higher intensities. So specifically when sweat loss is higher and it becomes more important to replace what we lose. So we build this strategy and we start slowly and build up to meet the strategy that we're planning. Next slide, please. So this is where sports drinks can help. Sports drinks obviously provide fluid and electrolytes to help us hydrate. But there's really two different options or types when it comes to sports drinks. We have sports drinks with carbohydrates and sports drinks without carbohydrates. The ones with carbohydrates are for periods where we need energy to be able to perform. But if we don't need that energy to help us perform, if we're just going about our daily activities or lighter intensity exercise, in the hot weather where we still sweat and want to replace what we lose, then a beverage with no sugar or less carbohydrates or without carbohydrates might be more suitable. So for performance and longer duration exercise, where we want the high intensity exercise, Gatorade with carbohydrates or sports drinks with carbohydrates can be beneficial. And when we're less intense, lower durations, shorter durations, beverages without carbohydrates may be more suitable. So both can be used for exercise, but at different times. So next slide, please. That now covers hydration, and the final part of my talk will focus on protein and recovery. Next slide, please. So when it comes to protein, we focus on muscle protein synthesis, or the building of muscles. And we also focus on muscle protein breakdown, or the breakdown of muscles. Ultimately, we want balance, so we don't want the breakdown of muscles to be greater than the buildup of muscles. And this is where protein in the food we eat becomes important. So protein can help us build and repair our muscles to make sure that protein breakdown does not exceed muscle protein synthesis. Next slide, please. So ultimately, protein is really important to have in a recovery plan. And when we build a recovery plan for after exercise, we should consider three different things. We should consider the total amount of protein, the timing of protein, and the type of protein that we should be consuming. Next slide, please. So if we look at the strategy that we should build when consuming protein, studies recommend that we should consume protein in around 20 gram servings. And to help maximize muscle protein synthesis, we could also consume protein before bed. This is an opportunity that most of us will miss. This protein should be consumed around every 3 to 4 hours, apart from when we're sleeping. Obviously, we can get the protein before we sleep. This should be consumed soon after exercise. And again, this is to try and maximize the amount of times throughout the day we can consume protein to support the building and the recovery of muscles. So when we choose the protein, it's recommended that the protein should be a complete protein, meaning it contains all of the essential amino acids, which are ultimately the building blocks of the protein. And they're the ones that we cannot make in our body. This protein should be rapidly digested and absorbed, and will ideally be a good source of leucine. So leucine is an essential amino acid, and it kickstarts the muscle protein synthesis process, so the building or repair of the muscles. Dietary sources of protein are a great source as they're complete, they're rapidly digested and absorbed, and they're leucine rich. Next slide, please. So that covers protein, and now we should really consider about how to put that all together as I finish this talk. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, when returning to sport, it's all about building a plan. Before exercise, we should think about consuming fluids to hydrate and carbohydrates to fuel. And remember, being adequately fueled can help to reduce the risk of injury. During exercise, we should continue to do the same, but remember, carbohydrate is less important if exercise lasts less than 60 minutes or there is not a performance focus. We want to consume fluid now to reduce the level of dehydration, which is even more important in the heat. And finally, after exercise, it's all about repair and recovery. We want to rehydrate with fluids and electrolytes to replace what's been lost in our sweat. We want to consume carbohydrates to refuel, as just like a car, we need to top up our energy levels, and it's recommended to consume protein to support our recovery as well. Next slide, please. So it's also important not to forget it all starts with a healthy, balanced diet. So I've talked about carbohydrates, fluid and protein, but it's also important to consume healthy fats as well as vitamins and minerals. Now, deficiencies in vitamins and minerals can also increase injury risk. So for example, let's take one. If you do not consume enough vitamin D, then you may get weak bones. Weak bones may put you at increased risk of injury. So it's also important to consume this healthy, balanced diet. And we can achieve vitamin and mineral recommendations by consuming a healthy, balanced diet with a variety of different foods and different colours as well. Only when the healthy, balanced diet has been met should we then focus on sport nutrition recommendations. And as a final option, supplements should be considered if there is a specific need. But I'd always recommend talking to a nutritionist before taking a supplement. Next slide, please. So to conclude, when returning to sport and focusing on reducing the risk of injury and recovery in the heat, it's important to first build a strategy, to start slowly and allow the body the time to adapt to the return to sport and the change in the diet. And if we do all of this, we can ultimately support a safe and healthy return to sport, as well as supporting your performance. Next slide, please. Great, so that was everything for me. Thank you for listening. And next slide, please. My contact details are here if anyone wants to reach out after the presentation, but I believe we'll now go on to some Q&A. So thank you again, everyone, for listening today.
Thank you very much, Liam. As always, my notepad here is full of notes coming from your presentation. And if you don't mind, I'm going to bring Coach Kale back in. Coach Kale, I want to see you there. There you go. We got Coach Kale Alvarez. We got Liam Brown. And as promised, we're going to go to our Q&A. So we have some questions here from our friends. But first up, we're going to ask Coach Kale, okay? I am one of those people, Coach, who slowly tried to ease my way back in. Unfortunately, I learned the hard way. Because after 2 years of no basketball, I go to this basketball game. You know, I try to make my slow moves, and I end up injuring my hamstring, which made me stop again for another 2 weeks. So let me ask you this, Coach Kale. What would be the best or top 3 exercises for proper conditioning before a game, so that people like me won't be falling into that trap of trying to jump into who we were 2 years ago?
Yeah.
What would be your top 3 exercises, Coach?
Okay, my top 3 exercises will be personally, I love doing mobility exercises.
Okay.
So, mobility exercises for shoulders, hips, and ankles. So, normally, those are the 3 joints that gets injured when it's not if it doesn't have enough mobility. Next, core exercises. Any form of core exercises, not crunches or any form of sit-ups. Core exercises such as planks, some glute
Oh,
bridges. You know, those will really help because if your core is strong enough, then it can support your limbs better, hence
okay.
lowering the chances of getting injured. And lastly, squats. You can never
Mm.
have or you can never do enough squats.
So mobility, core exercises, and then squats.
Yes,
Okay,
I would
fantastic,
recommend
fantastic.
those three.
Okay, now I jump to Liam. Liam, in the past 2 years, when the pandemic struck, lockdown was there. Unfortunately, the couch called all of us to sit down, catch our Netflix, bring out these chips and all, and enjoy your favorite movie or your favorite sports documentary. But kidding aside, now that we're slowly going back to normal, we have our sports activities coming back. What type of diet would you recommend that we should have when we try to ease back into sports? And I'm gonna tell you this, Liam. I'm sure the seasoned athletes have their nutritionist, dietitians, right? But how about the weekend warriors, the once a week sports enthusiasts? What's a nice diet that we should have?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, like you say, obviously the professional athlete will have their nutritionist who can tell them exactly what to do. But for those who don't have that, it's all about within the week focusing on that healthy, balanced diet. So getting a combination of different foods from different sources with different colours, fruits and vegetables throughout the day. When it comes to performance, it's all about focusing on the amount of exercise that you'll be doing. So if you go in for a longer period of time and you want to
Mhm.
focus on high intensity exercise, it's all about getting in enough carbohydrates before that to be able to maintain the high intensity exercise over time. And then afterwards, we want to make sure we consume more carbohydrates to refuel the body for next time, and also protein to recover as well. So, overall, healthy, balanced diet and around exercise, focus on the specific requirements.
I've heard that before, Liam. Right? I mean, the colorful food groups that you see, the veggies that you have, would be a nice way to do it. But am I right in saying that there are recipes out there that you could actually research to make a boring vegetable dish more exciting, right? More palatable to your taste and still enjoy that veggie that you like.
100%. Yep. Fruit and vegetables definitely don't have to be boring. There's lots of recipes out there that can make it more exciting.
Okay, thanks, Liam. I go back to Coach Kale because Coach Kale earlier, I think I was a little bit advanced on my question to you in terms of what type of exercises. But let me go a few steps back. What routine do you think should non-pro athletes or non-pro sports enthusiasts like me have to do when getting back into a particular type of sport? And let me add a little bit more context to that. Kasama ba dyan ng rest, sleep? What would you recommend? A nice routine for especially people who work. They work Monday to
Mhm,
Friday.
mhm.
When do they squeeze in a nice, as you mentioned, 150 to 300 minutes of exercise in a week, right? What would be a nice routine, Coach Kale?
Okay, actually, number one, we have to be realistic about that. Like, as you've mentioned,
Mm.
there's a lot of people there who work 8 to 5, can't even probably needs family time as well after work. They won't be able to squeeze in the training that they need to prepare them for sports or their chosen sports. So I would recommend just work on the three pillars. Number one, good exercise or enough exercise or enough movement at the very least. Movement is important rather than just sitting down and hitting the remote for the Netflix. Number two, making sure that you get a balanced diet.
Mhm.
And lastly, having enough rest or recovery. When you're tired, don't force yourself to do extra work or do extra training. because that will do more harm than good. Don't feel that, okay, I need to push myself to train, because if I don't, I won't be able to prepare myself. Although there's a fine line between pushing yourself and overdoing it.
Yeah.
So the best would be to just listen to your body in this case. If you don't have a coach to give you a program, listen to your body, because you know if you're going to get hurt or not. And there will be times that you feel like you know that you're just lazy, and that's why you need to push yourself. So you have to be able to differentiate the two. So yeah, okay. In terms of the exercise side, again, I mentioned you just need to move. So if you
Okay.
can put in a specific training routine, just make sure you go up and down the stairs, you walk. Instead of taking the elevator going to your third floor office, just take your stairs.
Okay.
That will be enough for you to be able to prepare you.
I like that. Move your body. Make sure that it's constantly moving, right? It doesn't. I mean, intensity it can decrease, but as long as you move your body, then you're in a good path. Okay, Leon, I go back to you. I and I would say this is a matter of fact. Okay, sometimes when I do exercises or when I do my runs, I fall into the trap of I don't need to drink because I'm not thirsty. I don't need to hydrate because I'm not thirsty. I know that's wrong. So, how do you know, or how would one know when one needs to rehydrate?
That is a great question. I think a lot of people might feel the same on that. So there's a couple of different ways to think about it. First of all, like you say, sometimes you don't feel thirsty, so you don't feel that you need to drink. But
Mm-hmm.
when you become thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
Okay.
So it's really important to hydrate regularly throughout the day, especially when you're exercising, to prevent dehydration or limit the amount of dehydration. So we will only feel thirsty once we're already dehydrated. So, number one, consume enough fluid regularly throughout the day, especially when we're exercising. The second part of that is about after exercise. So, what we can do, we can measure our body weight before and after exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And if we lose greater than 2% of our body mass via our sweat, then it's really important to make sure we drink more during exercise and after exercise too. Because losing more than 2% body mass means we're becoming dehydrated, which can affect our performance. So there's two different ways we can look at it. One, hydrate regularly throughout the day, especially during exercise. And two, focus on that after exercise period as well.
Wait, I'll go back to what you mentioned, Liam, because 2% of your body mass. It's good that real talk here. People watching us right now, because some people would say, "Oh, I'm 180 pounds before my run, and then after that I dropped to a considerable amount, and they're happy because they lost weight, but really they have to replenish that lost fluid, that they have to rehydrate, because more than 2% of your body mass, say it again, is not good, right? You have to make
Exactly,
sure you
yeah.
replenish
So
it.
yeah, if we lose more than 2% of our body mass, it can lead to decreases in performance. So, our cognitive function or our decision making, our performance when we're out running, we might run slowly if we're dehydrated. So, whilst you might think losing that body mass is good, it's mainly a loss of water, and losing too much water can be bad for us. So, we want to make sure we remain hydrated, yeah.
uh, I think I saw in one of your slides you mentioned you just don't drink or hydrate during. It's best that you do it before, during, and after, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it's important to consume fluid before exercise because that way we don't start exercise dehydrated. So if we start exercise hydrated, it becomes more difficult for us to become more dehydrated as we exercise. During exercise, hydrate to try and limit the amount of dehydration, and after exercise, consume fluids to try and replace the fluid that we've lost. And having electrolytes like sodium in that can help make sure we're hydrated as well.
Fantastic. I got two more quick questions for you guys before we go to our viewers here. I go back to Coach Kale. Coach Kale, a lot of people my age, the 40-ish, nearing the 50-ish, okay? For older athletes or older weekend warriors like me, quickly, Coach, any tips on how we can safely ease our way back into sports?
Okay, for the older athletes, especially those who are nearing senior age, I recommend you get clearance from your doctors first. Okay,
Boom.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with just getting cleared. Uh, some of us may have an underlying condition that we're not aware of, and then it will suddenly arise during a game. Sometimes when we when we go back to sports or when we play sports at a later age, we think or we tell ourselves, "I'm just gonna take it easy. I'm not gonna push
Mhm.
myself because I'm not prepared. I'm not well trained, and I'm already old." So a lot of people say that. Uh, that's not necessarily always correct in that sense because again if you have an underlying condition it's best to know that and get
Yeah.
cleared and then get the necessary preparations for that now if you're cleared again just make sure that you are moving all the time even if you don't
Yeah.
train as long as you're moving all the time then your body will be able to cope with the sport.
I love your answer there, Coach Kid. You know, that saying what you don't know won't hurt you doesn't apply to everything, okay? When you go exercising,
Yes,
make sure that you get the doctor's nod first, especially after being inactive for over 2 years. And that's serious, guys. What we you last thing you want is you dropping on the floor or falling on your back when you're doing your favorite
exactly.
sport. Okay. So I got your questions from our viewers, okay? So before I go to Liam, quickly to Coach Kale. I have a tournament tomorrow coming from Raver Banag. We'll try to flash it on the screen. I have a tournament tomorrow, but I have an injury. What should I do, Coach Kale?
Okay, number one, you should identify your game or your match for tomorrow. Is it crucial or not? If it's a championship game and it's a must win, then I suggest if you're willing to risk it, go for it. But if it's not, take it easy, rest your injury because there's always a next tournament coming around.
Love that answer because in my personal opinion, if you're injured, rest. There's always tomorrow to play again. Liam, this one's for you. Coming from Prakash Kondekar. I hope I pronounced that correctly. What's better, fruits or juices during sport?
Good question. Both are a really good source of carbohydrate, so I'd say it doesn't really matter. It depends on your preference. Both are healthy. Both are going to contribute to that one of your five a day. So it depends on preference.
All right, thank you, Liam. Love the answer as well. Coach Kayla, go back to you. This one is coming from Alfonso de Jesus Galvez, and this is actually a very interesting question. What's your thought, your comments on this one on tournaments which make players compete on a daily basis, whether the pros or the ligang barangay, the schedule sometimes it's they say we got to keep on playing because we don't know when they're going to stop us from playing. Your thoughts on that, making players compete on a daily basis. Is this healthy, Coach Kale?
Okay, if we're going to talk about the physiological aspect, then no, especially if the tournament or the competition is very competitive. This will definitely risk the chances of getting injured. Um, if it's a prolonged tournament and then they're trying to squeeze in as many games as possible, then I would say that risk is so high in getting injured. So if there's no way around it, then the best way the coach or the team can do is to have a good rotation of players so that everybody can get in a good recovery time in preparation for the next game. Now, if it's really healthy, honestly, no, it's not healthy. Again, as an athlete, you want to be able to prolong the athletic career. If you're going to keep on doing this, then definitely that will shorten that lifespan.
Like that answer, Coach. And again, remember in one of the slides of Coach Kale, he put emphasis on strength and conditioning. So if the tournament, I guess, right, Coach, can stop you guys from playing every day, make sure that your
Mhm.
coaches will help you get into that nice game shape as you progress into the tournament. And I think the coaches will agree on that. Make sure that you have a good conditioning coach with you. Okay, I jump back to Liam. Liam, we're in the Philippines, the land of coconuts here, right? We have them everywhere. So, coconut juice, is it a good alternative to sports drink or water? What can you say about that, Liam?
Interesting question. I think it's important throughout the day to consume a range of different beverages. Water obviously does the job, it hydrates well. Sports drinks then specifically have that carbohydrate in some cases to help you with your performance. If you want to do high intensity exercise,
Mm-hmm.
carbohydrates are the answer there as well. So, sports drinks, water, two solutions. Coconut juice, on the other hand, I can't say I know too much about the nutritional composition of coconut juice. I believe it contains some electrolytes, but I'm not sure how much carbohydrates. So, what I'd recommend is if you like coconut juice, consume it as part of your daily hydration strategy. But if you're looking at performance, make sure whatever you're drinking contains carbohydrates. And we know sports drinks do this. And then throughout the day, obviously, water is a good solution as well. So combine it within the daily hydration strategy if you like it.
Fantastic. And I guess to all our viewers out there, if you have more questions regarding that, don't stop yourselves from messaging Gatorade on their Facebook page. For sure, our experts would love to give you guys a tip or two. Okay, Coach Kale, I jump back to you. This is from Melvin Laurel. Um, what do you do when you take a break, a 1 week break from your sport, and how do you prepare for training? Because sometimes it's inevitable that you have to stop for various reasons. So when that happens, what would be a good way to go back again, Coach?
Okay, when you take a week's break from your sport, actually 1 week of taking it easy won't do anything negatively in your performance. Actually, sometimes you want to be able to take that week to taper or to just
Mm-hmm.
do a recovery, a full week of recovery. As I mentioned earlier, when we do periodization training, we need to be able to do that. Like for example, if you do a 4 week block, you'll do your first week at a certain level, at a certain intensity. Week two higher, week
Yeah,
three even higher, then week four take it easy. So
yeah.
normally that's what we do to be able to uh, get that super compensation again to kick in and to properly give yourself enough time to recover and push yourself into the game or back into training.
Now, Coach Kill, thank you for answering that way. I'd like to throw in a suggestion to our viewers. If you're really looking to improve yourself, even if you're just a weekend warrior, it's not bad to invest in a good coach, so that that coach could help you design your program, right? Depending on your abilities and your age. Diba, Coach Kale? That would be a
Yes,
good way
yes, definitely, definitely.
to kick it off. Okay, last question to Liam. I got lots of questions here from our over 5,000 viewers. Worry not, because our friends from Gatorade will try to answer them um, after probably the next few days. Okay, so to keep it coming. Liam, last question. When is the best time to take protein? Coming from Raymond.
That is a very good question. And I think lots of people are confused about this. So, lots of people think protein might be a quick fix. So, you consume protein after exercise, that's it, perfect, done. Protein is not a quick fix, it's important all throughout the day. So, what the science has shown is that protein should be consumed in regular intervals throughout the day. So we start with breakfast and consume protein every 3 to 4 hours in about 20 grams. And what this means is it helps maximize that muscle protein synthesis. We also want to consume protein before bed, as it helps with that muscle protein synthesis whilst we sleep, and also after exercise. The reason for this, if we consume protein close to exercise, we can then consume protein again about 3 hours later. So the ideal answer, regularly throughout the day.
Fantastic. Love that. Okay. I'd love to ask more questions to you guys, but time is of the essence as well. So we hope to have you again in another batch of GSSI in the future. But before I let you two go, Coach Kale, parting shots, final words for our viewers who are watching right now, and also please include where they can get in touch with you should they have additional questions for you, Coach Kale. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to answer some questions in the messaging area. If I don't get to answer, you can send your answers to my Instagram account. That's at Coach Kale. Easy to find. So, okay. Thank you guys for listening and watching. Again, just keep yourself moving. That's it.
I love that. Keep yourself moving. Thank you, Coach Kale. And again, at Coach Kale on IG, make sure that you throw your questions there in case he won't be able to answer everything. He'll stay with our program until the end and try to answer the questions. Liam, same thing for you. Your final message and where can they get in touch with you should they have questions regarding our topic today. Go ahead, Liam.
Yeah, of course. So feel free to continue posting questions on the Facebook page. My email address and my Twitter handle are on the slides earlier as well. So if you want to look back at the presentation, you can find all the details there. But overall, I'd just like to say thank you everyone for listening today. It's been great to be part of. We have a great lineup of speakers coming up for the rest of today and the next couple of months as well. And importantly, enjoy the return to sport, eat well and stay healthy.
Love that. Eat well, stay healthy, and enjoy getting back into sports. Once again, let's give a virtual round of applause to our presenters today, Coach Kale Alvarez and Liam Brown. Thank you very much, guys. Coach Kale, wherever you are, stay safe, stay healthy. Liam in UK, lunch is approaching. Enjoy your lunch there in UK, and I'll see you guys next time, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Okay, quick reminders before we go to our next segment. Again, send your questions because as we go to the next segment, it's going to be interesting. Makakabali-taktakan natin yung mga paborito ninyong atleta from the PBA. Make sure that you put your comments or your questions down low. And don't forget, at the end of the show or towards the end of the show, we got this trivia contest. 8 winners of the shirt, the socks, the bottle, the backpack. I'm going to show them later on. And then finally, for those of you who'd like to receive a certificate of attendance, wait for the QR code at the end of the live show. Again, that QR code will not be you won't be able to use that if you watch this in the replay or when it's uploaded on Facebook later on. So it has to be at the end of the show. Okay, here we go. We're going to our next segment, and we're gonna have this a nice discussion with our professional basketball athletes because they're here virtually, of course, to spend this afternoon with you before we hit the hour of 6. Let's introduce our two PBA greats. First up, a UAAP star who played for the NU Bulldogs and recently na-draft siya sa PBA as one of the new players of the Elasto Painters. Talking about the rain or shine Elasto Painters, their newest forward, and he has shown it in the games he has played recently in the Philippine Cup that hindi siya madali itulak. Parang tatay niya at parang kapatid din niya. Mga kapatid, PBA fans, basketball fans, sports enthusiasts, let's all welcome Sean Ildefonso. Now we'll hear from Sean in a few. Hello, Sean. Makakasama rin po natin, people know him as Showtime during his days as one of the aces. Tapos, tinawag din siyang Teniente. Pero pagkatapos nun, na-promote, naging general. Widely celebrated for his skills as a point guard, 'di ba? Tinawag pa nga natin yung tira niya, yung pambansang reverse, 'di ba? Kanya galing yun eh. And yung kanyang passing ability, hindi lang 3 mata nito, 5 siguro. Kaya niyang pumasa everywhere sa loob ng basketball court. And he is a 9-time PBA All-Star, 7-time PBA champion, 4-time PBA Finals MVP, at PBA Best Player of the Conference awardee. BPC BPC noong 2013. At ito pa. But wait, there's more. He has played 714 consecutive games, and he is called the Iron Man of the PBA. Tubong, Batangas. Palakpakan po natin, Luis Alfred L.A. Tenorio. Yes. Okay. Bago tayo magkwentuhan dito, siguro, Sean, umpisa muna sa iyo. Why not say hello and greet all our viewers, even the fans of Sean and the fans of Rain or Shine. Go ahead, Sean.
Hello po. Good evening sa inyo. I'm Sean Ildefonso of the Rain or Shine Alaska Painters. Thank you for joining us in this webinar, and I hope marami kayong matutunan and ma-share namin yung mga experiences namin na mabuti sa inyo. So thank you for joining us, and hope you have fun.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. LA, I jump into you. Ikaw naman, baka gusto mong bumati muna bago tayo magkwentuhan nila, Sean. Go ahead, LA.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again. Thank you for having me. This is my second time sa webinar. So thank you for having me, and of course to all the viewers and all the listeners. Sana marami kayong natutunan at marami pa kayong matututunan sa amin. So yun, let's enjoy.
Okay, all right. I love this. It's 5:36 in the afternoon. I'm sure yung iba dyan, may bit-bit pang merienda, no? Para habang nanonood sa atin. So, Sean, I'll go back and forth with you and LA. Siguro, unang tanong ko sa inyo because when the pandemic struck in March of 2020, tapos hinto tayo lahat, di ba? Hinto lahat ng games natin. We started converting our own backyards into our own little gyms. Sean, ikaw muna. Real talk, did you have a hard time easing back yourself into sports, into training, into playing competitive basketball? Nahirapan ka ba?
Honestly, Boss Jakey, real talk, nahirapan talaga ako kasi, iba pa rin yung nakakatakbo ka ng full court, alam mo yun, and, being in a widely, an area just for sports. Kasi ngayon, sabi mo nga yung backyard gym, iba-iba lang eh. Iba rin yung like yung workout ka lang araw-araw, you have a little space for you to run, for you to do like, your aerobic exercises, tapos yung buhat rin, compare it to like, or 5-on-5, training, fast break drills. So, pero sa una lang talaga na ako nahirapan, pero easily, little by little, bumalik rin ako sa lumang groove ko. Yun lang.
Thanks, Sean. LA, same question sa'yo, no? Pero kasi nagbibiruan tayo before the start of the show na hindi naman tayo bumabata na, no? Yung age group natin, kalasyon, kasi mga young guns pa ito. Pero ikaw, LA, na ilang taon na rin nasa PBA, 714 games. I mean, nahirapan ka rin ba ang isang tenyente, ang isang general para makabalik into sports?
Well, definitely, no. It's I did had a hard time when I went back to playing basketball. Katulad yan na sinabi ni Sean, no. It's really hard because the timing is different, no. You're not in game shape. It's different when you work out as an individual, in a small space, diba? You cannot run around the court. And plus for me, I've been playing for almost 16 or 17 years now, and I'm not used to I'm not used to be playing alone. I'm not used to be working out alone also. So it's hard. It's hard when I went back to the gym. I really have to be careful and slowly, just like what Coach Kale was saying a while ago. It's really, kailangan slowly but surely. Kailangan ganun ang ginawa ko talaga when I went back to sports.
Eto, interesado ako malaman kasi yung si Sean kakapasok ng PBA, ikaw LA, medyo sabi mo nga 16 na taon ka na naglalaro din, ano? Sean, nung pagtungtong mo sa hardcourt, no, after all those training in your home, sa backyard lang, siguro online training, anong una mong ginawa when you hit the court again? Na may smile, may big smile on your face. What was the first thing that you did when you hit the court again, Sean?
Well, ano po, Boss G, actually, parang nanibago ako just shooting the basketball kasi iba yung court namin dito eh. Bumili lang kami nung parang yung nasa-setup lang na basketball rim dito during the pandemic. But yung nakapunta na ako ng legit na court, yun ang una kong ginawa is to like, get the feel back of shooting a regular size rim. So, yun na talaga yung una.
Alam mo, kaya ako tinanong sa yan, Sean, dahil itong si LA, meron sariling court yan eh. Sa bahay niya. Pag nakita nga ninyo, ganda pa niya, no? Dahil ikaw, LA, I'm sure you found time every day to shoot some hoops. Pero nung alam mong maglalaro na ulit o mag-iensayo na ang Barangay Ginebra, na magkikita-kita na kayo, anong una mong ginawa, LA? Kasi I'm sure you found time to, as I mentioned, shoot hoops. But when you saw the whole team, anong una mong ginawa?
Well, I made sure that all my teammates are negative on the virus first, no? Before before ako lumapit sa kanila, no? That's kidding aside. Kidding aside, ano na lang, I made sure that first and foremost, I made sure that my body is ready to compete right away. Because when we went back to playing basketball right away, I think they gave us only 10 days to prepare for the bubble eh. Back, no? For the bubble. So it's hard, and it's really hard also because nagkaroon ako ng story about that also na anong tawag dito? I had an appendectomy, di ba? Procedure
Yes.
back. So additional setback pa sa akin yun aside from the 2 years or almost 2 years without playing basketball. So it's ang ganda because every day I'm working out and then all of a sudden nagkaroon ako na a week before the practice, nagkaroon ako ng appendectomy procedure, so I have to sit out and not join the practice for 2 weeks or 2 to 3 weeks. So it's hard for me, after waiting for a long time and then nagkaroon pa ng another setback. But again, the rest is history, naging blessing din for me. So, yun.
Nag-worry kami noon eh dahil nung time na yon akala namin mahihinto yung streak mo eh. And then on your first game, I saw you specifically stand up, go to the Barkers area. Ako, ay salamat, maglalaro si Iron Man. So the streak continues. Okay, usapang usapang pagkain naman muna tayo Huwag kayong mag-deny. I'm sure nung wala tayong mga laro, nagbukasin kayo ng mga chips ninyo diyan, 'di ba? Mga unhealthy food dyan. Totoo yan. Real talk ulit tayo, no? Si Sean, napangiti, lalo na yung mga young ones. It's nice to have those the chips. But when you found out, Sean, that we're hitting the courts back, the games will be back, ano yung, meron ka bang naging special diet before you went back into to playing competitively?
Well, ano po, kasi nung pandemic, I really gained a lot of weight. Kasi there was really nothing to do. Parang ang daily na gagawin namin was to work out, and at night, just eat chips. Kasi kumain kasi walang practice, alam mo yun. And like parang relax lang. But yung nalaman na namin na we're gonna get to, the normal training back, paano po ako, nag-calorie deficit diet, para at least try to get the old shape back. And yun nga, nakatulong naman.
Oh, I'm sure, no? Baka pag kumakain ka ng chips, yung daddy mo, si Danny ay malamang
Kumakain
hiling
sa
yun.
Shiki.
Kumakain din.
Mahilig.
Akalain mo,
Oo.
pero condition pa rin yung daddy mo LA, I jump into you. Ikaw, meron ka bang special diet na ginamit or pinuntahan nung bago ka pumunta sa competitive basketball ulit?
Well, my age is different from Sean. So si Sean pwedeng kumain ng marami na. So actually during the pandemic, nagkaroon ako ng opportunity to be more disciplined on what I eat kasi iba na yung iba na yung metabolism natin, 'di ba? Lalo na sa age ko ngayon, it's really hard and I don't know, 'di ba, before the pandemic, hindi naman natin alam kung hanggang kailan yung pandemic, 'di ba? So,
Hmm.
what I did actually before the pandemic pa lang, I stopped eating meat already, no?
Okay.
Walang pork or beef, but I eat chicken, fish, and veggies lang kinakain ko. But
Okay.
once in a while, as per my nutritionist, no, I cannot totally parang tanggalin yung beef kasi kahit
Yung
papaano
karne, oo.
kailangan may may protein ka kahit may protein ako kahit konti, but rarely, like twice a month probably, or after a game,
Hmm.
after a hard game, yun yung ginagawa ko. But during the pandemic, I made sure na my body is ready anytime. Hindi ako nagpabaya, and ayun yung ginawa kong sobrang disiplina talaga nung nag-cheat din ako for siguro nung nabalita ako na medyo tatagal yung break. Siguro nagpahinga din ako mga 2 weeks, kumain lang ako ng kumain, and then after that, kasi it's kind of nagiging boring din pag everyday, 'di ba? Same lang kinakain mo. You do the same thing every day. When you wake up, you work out, and then you eat, and then work out again, and then you eat again. 'Di ba?
Hirap,
So,
'di ba? Oo.
hirap It's very challenging, especially for us athlete, no? Especially yun nga sa mga that time si Sean, he was still in the UAAP, 'di ba? It's hard for them kasi 'di ba, after practicing for longest time, all of a sudden masa-stop sila, 'di ba?
That's
Nasayang
right.
yung 2 years, almost a year or two, 'di ba? Playing
Mm.
years nila.
But good to see that Sean, you've made it to the big leagues, and I'm sure, no, LA, I'm sure tatagal to
Yeah.
dahil ano to Tatak Ildefonso to hindi naman
Ay, oo.
pwedeng oo.
Iba katawan ng mga Ildefonso Teammate ko yung
Iba,
daddy niya
oo.
dati.
Oo, iba mga original ang parts ito lahat, no? Okay. Usapang ano tayo, hydration, dehydration. Dahil syempre ang tingin ng mga tao sa inyo, mga supermen, mga superheroes, mga hindi Iron Man nga in your case, LA. Pero was there ever a point, Sean, ikaw muna, was there ever a point na ikaw ay na-dehydrate during training, even during competition na talagang na-dehydrate ka, and paano naka-apekto yan sa performance mo?
Well, Boss Ricky, when I was younger, parang there were a lot of times na parang lately ko kasi na-realize sa buhay na essential talaga ang tubig and carbohydrates. And honestly, Gatorade has helped a lot with that. Kasi
Ah,
kailangan malaman ng mga tao ngayon, especially the younger athletes, na water is not enough. You need to
yeah.
when you work out. Ako kasi I'm a heavy sweater and I'm definitely losing a lot more fluids and na habang nagte-training. So there were times na yun nga I felt dehydrated, pero not very rarely lang, but hindi nawawala yun especially pag pagod na pagod ka na, hindi mo na maiisip na damn, I need to drink water. I need to drink fluids right now. So yun nga, I mean, Gatorade has helped a lot with that kasi very convenient. Iinom ka lang,
Mm.
yung fluids mo are placed back in. And syempre, water is essential pa rin naman. But yeah, kailangan lang malaman ng tao na kahit gaano ka pa super athlete, if you don't really pay attention to your hydration, pwede mag downgrade yung performance mo. So, yun lang.
That's good, no, hearing from a young athlete like you. LA, I go to you naman. Ilang taong ka na naglalaro? Longevity ang binabandera mo dito. 714 consecutive games. Was there ever a game or a training day na ikaw din na dehydrate ka kasi hindi mo na nasubaybayan yung fluid intake mo, yung water and Gatorade intake mo? Nangyari na ba sa yan?
Um, Well, yes, if you know my history, no, if yung mga nanonood, if they know my history back when I was in college, grabe ako mag-craps.
Mm. Okay. Sinare mo
I'm
sa
sure
akin
mga
yan. Oh, I
friends,
remember that. Yeah.
I'm sure mga friends natin dyan sa Gatorade knows about me, no? Na as in, I think my fourth year and my fifth year in Ateneo, I cannot finish one game
Mm.
because I'm always cramping. Back when I was in Ateneo, so they did a lot of tests. Actually, Gatorade
Okay.
made test sa akin before. If maalala nung mga tao na yun dyan, they made me do the sweat test. No, it was if I can mention that our doctor before, it was Dr. Canlas who made me the sweat test. No, and they found out that I sweat more kaysa sa ini-intake ko na liquid.
Nah.
No, so from there on, nag-start ako na may routine every day. I drink two bottles of Gatorade, and then I make sure that I drink a lot of water. And then before going to sleep, I drink water also. And
Mm.
then as soon as I wake up in the morning, I drink 500 ml of water right away. And then that's my routine again the next day. So until now, I've been doing that. Um, Sometimes I drink water with salt water pa.
Okay.
Salt water, yeah. Sometimes I drink pa like that. So, ano grabe. And it really affected my performance before. Imagine being a veteran before when I was in Ateneo, I cannot finish one game. Expected na nila na fourth quarter, I'll be in the
Wala
bench
na.
already. Grabe
Bibigay
siguro
na.
yun.
Oo.
Bibigay na. And it happens to me all the time. And even in the PBA, during a series, best of 7, every other day game, playing more than
Oo.
40 minutes per game, there was a lot of times na I have to go straight to the hospital because I was too
Wow.
dehydrated. To the point na I have a fever already because of too much dehydration. Ginagawa ko lang, I have to go out again the hospital, play again the next day, and then go back to the hospital.
Balik
I did
ulit.
that a lot of
Wow.
times. Oh. I did that a lot of times. People doesn't know that. Ganun ako katigas ang ulo. So I have to sign a waiver in the hospital pa. Kasi nga I have to leave, and then I have to play and then
Go
go back
back.
right away.
Oo.
So
Wow.
and it really affects my performance. Kumbaga, syempre, you have to think also of your health eh. Katulad nga
Mm-mm.
na sinabi ni Coach Kale also kanina, you really have to listen to your body. No?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
What I did before when I was still young, probably I cannot do it now. No? Kasi iba na yung baka maging pakiramdam ko noon, baka dire-diretso na ako. Diba? So, yun. And, really, Gatorade was, actually, to be honest, like Sean, Gatorade was really part of my routine ever since when I was in college. So, when I was still in college. Until now.
Alam mo, I remember, recently lang, no, itong Philippine Cup, during the playoffs, tumaymot ang Barangay Ginebra, tapos finocus yung camera. Because I was covering that game. And I saw you had your Gatorade bottle there. That was a quick lull dahil may ni-review yatang call. And you took a swig. And I guess that's the living testament na kaya 714 games and still going ka, ha? LA. Kaya
Sana.
uh, we'll root that you don't end that streak until you retire. So, ito one more than Jordan, 7 championships, one more than Jordan. Sabi ni Tongat
Oo,
Maitan
6
dito.
lang siya.
Ikaw 7. Di ba? And more to come. Sabi ni Sean, ako bata pa, abangan mo ako, Kuya Chiki.
Madami pa
Kaya
yan.
rin yan.
Madami pa yan.
Okay, maraming fans nagtatanong, etong mga player ba ng PBA, mga mortal ba ito? Meron ba tong mga kinakain din na favorite meals nila? So, usapang snacks tayo dito, usapang snacks. Sean, what's your favorite go-to snack after training? Sige nga, quick answer.
Wow.
Top of mind.
Uh, quick fire. Nutella
Sige,
sandwich actually. Kailangan ko kasi ng
talaga?
carb yung mabilis na carb po. Prepare ko yun with Gatorade actually. Kasi Boss Cheeky lately twice a day ako eh. So after training practice namin, may weight session ako niyan. So I really need to, yung mabilis na source of carb. So that's basically
Oo.
like Nutella sandwich. Then yun, Gatorade. Tapos diretso na ulit.
Tas
Pakpok na ulit.
ensayo ulit.
Ah,
Okay, nice, nice. Tanong ako kay LA. Gusto ko malaman kung kasama yung Batangas Lomi sa go-to snack mo after training.
Hindi,
But kidding aside, LA, ano ang favorite go-to snack mo after training?
after training, most of the time I eat pasta and or
Okay.
sandwich or sandwiches. No meat, no meat.
Oo,
Yeah. So
yun
yun,
ang
most of the
go-to
time
snack
yun yung
mo.
go-to snack.
Okay. Tips naman, quickly, Sean, I go back to you. Ano naman ang mga pwede mong i-recommend sa mga nanonood sa atin? Kasi kung napansin nyo, yung mga liga, di ba, sa mga barangay, naglabasan na, maraming mga basketball aficionados are playing again. What would you recommend, Sean, based on your experience, for them to be able to safely get back into the sport that they love? Sabihin na natin basketball yan. Anong marirekomenda mo dyan, Sean?
I believe, Boss Shaky, na parang sinabi ni Coach Kale kanina, you really have to listen to yourself. And you can't really rush things. Kung
Mm.
feel mo parang kulang ka sa stretch, kulang ka sa warm-up, then you have to do those things. And I believe mobility, like the stretching, yung mga pre-game routines mo, napaka-essential niyan eh. So, yun nga, pag we can't really go into a game or a sport na, alam mo, hindi tayo warmed up kasi we're gonna be prone to injuries. So yun lang talaga pinaka-essential tip ko is just you have to warm up and prepare beforehand to a game na very well, and hindi mo pwede i-rush yun and baliwalain. So
Nice to hear that from you, Sean. LA, ikaw naman, lalo na dun sa mga matagal na humahanga sa'yo. So, ibig sabihin yan, mga kaedaran ko na siguro yan, ano? Um, kami, but it's so difficult to give up basketball, lalo na pag mahal na mahal mo. Anong tip naman, LA, mabibigay mo sa mga um, mas matandang mga manlalaro who would like to get back and safely get back into playing basketball?
Well, with regards sa age bracket mo, Chiki, no? Not me.
Aray ko!
Joke lang, joke lang.
Sige lang, kailangan namin yan. Kailangan namin yan, ha? Oo.
No. Of course, tama si Sean eh, no? Sa lahat na sinabi ni Sean, yung kailangan, you need to move, listen to your body, mobility, stretch before the game. But, on the other hand, yung sa age bracket na medyo, aging na, medyo matanda na, I think, before you do like a sport or very
Mhm.
competitive sport, I think you really have to do check up muna, 'di ba?
Oo.
Especially
Oo, totoo yan, ha?
if you yeah, 'di ba? I'm just real talk lang, 'di ba? Parang you have to check your kung yung condition, your health, 'di ba? Napakalaking bagay noon eh. 'Di ba? Especially nga sa mga nag-age. Kasi ngayon ang dami ngayon nag-open na basketball league, 40 and above,
Totoo yan.
50 years old na nagba-basketball. So, I think the most important thing is really to listen to your body, to check your health, make sure that you're okay, you're ready, you have clearance from your doctor that you can play competitive basketball, 'di ba? And after that, you do all those things na sinabi ni Sean, do all the movement, aerobics, 'di ba? Mobility and everything. And if you're a weekend warrior, probably siguro mga once or twice in a week makasingit ka ng kahit maka-jogging ka or mag-aerobics ka para lang mapawisan, 'di ba? Para hindi lang every Saturday or Sunday lang, para hindi nabibigla yung katawan. 'Di ba?
I like that.
Alam ko
Tama
kasi
yun, ano?
gano'n na ako eh.
Singit ka, di ba? Mga 2-3 kilometrong takbo siguro, di ba? Na hindi naman
Yeah,
kailangan mabilis.
even actually in place, you can do
Jog
a
in
lot of
place.
things. Jog in place, you can do like aerobics in place. There's a lot of tutorials na ngayon sa mga social media na pwede mong sundan, mga ang tawag sa ganun, mga circuit training in place
Oo.
para lang you sweat out sa bahay. Sa mga smaller space, pwede mo rin
Oo.
gawin.
Pero LA and Sean, I know you'll agree on this. Balikan natin yung una sinabi ni LA sa mga viewers natin. We're over 7,000. 7.7 thousand na nanonood sa atin ngayon. Lapit muna kayo sa doktor. Get that clearance from your cardiologist. Kasi importante ma-check mo na yung puso natin na kaya, no? Okay. Eto, katuwaan lang. Kasi gusto ko makita kung may difference yung sagot ninyo. Sean, nung una kang naglaro after that hiatus, that break, kumusta yung unang game mo? After that long break, unang 5-on-5 mo. You're smiling right now kasi baka may funny story ka dyan. Go ahead, Sean.
Is this first UAP game back or kahit sa practice, Boss Chicky?
Kahit
Practice.
kung basta yung unang laro mo ng 5-on-5 after the long break, how was it? Were you shooting bricks? Were you shooting some ringless but not of the good kind, mga kapos? Ano ba?
I think I was making baskets. I think for what I remember. Pero parang isa o tatlong balik pa lang pagod na ako.
Tinggal na.
Kasi nga again, no, kasi iba talaga yung iba talaga yung running 5-on-5 on a regular size court. But when that moment was happening, parang nakakatuwa lang kasi 'di ba, it's finally going back. Like sobrang tagal natin naghintay. Yung times na sa kalagitnaan ng pandemic, iniisip lang, for sure lahat ng mga basketballista, lahat may masasabi nila to na iniisip lang nila to, kailan kaya kami ulit makakabalik, kailan kaya kami makakalaro. And to finally be in that moment, yung nangyari to, it's just fun. Parang medyo nawawala na rin yung isip mo sa pagod eh. So it was a bitter sweet moment kasi napapagod ka pero it's happy to be back again. So yun lang.
Ikaw, LA, meron bang kakaiba na nakita ka nung una ka naglaro after a long time?
Mine is really different kasi nga I didn't have time to, kumbaga after a long layover, I had an appendectomy procedure and then I'm supposed to practice with the team for 10 days. Pero in 10 days na yun, I didn't practice because of my condition. So a day before the game, doon lang ako nag-practice. And it was like hell actually. Because 2 weeks of doing nothing after working out for so long, and then 2 weeks of doing nothing, you're just in bed because of your condition, and then all of a sudden practice with the team who's been practicing for days already. So it's really different, no? Medyo nahilo ako sa practice na yun. And then the next day I played. I played. So
Saba kagad,
maybe saba kagad. Maybe it's because of the adrenaline also, because yun nga, just like what Sean said, the excitement was there. Hindi mo na iniisip na you've been sitting out for the past 2 years, no? And then with my condition, I didn't think na I just had a procedure a week ago, which actually the doctor has no clearance yet, no? Nung naglaro ako. So, ang dami ko iniisip nung time na yon. So, but ang ginawa ko, what I did is, slowly but surely, I didn't force myself. I listened to my body. If I feel anything, when I felt anything, I told the coaching staff. It's really important also to communicate to to your coaches, to your nutritionists, to your doctors, diba? To your teammates, diba? So yun yung ginawa ko. Yun. And luckily, we went all the way and win the championship, diba? During the bubble, the first bubble.
Yeah.
Diba?
Well, guys, I'm down to ito isang huling question ko. We'll try to see if we could get some questions from the fans, no? Ako, may tatanong pa ako sa inyo bago tayo kumuha sa fans. Itong nangyari na to, itong break na ito, na nag-stop kayo mag-ensayo, nag-stop kayo maglaro. How did it change the way you play the game? But on top of that, how did it change your outlook? Outlook sa buhay, outlook sa health ninyo. Kasi 'di ba, for a while, I'm sure naisip nyo, Sean, LA, makakapaglaro pa ba kami? Magagawa ko pa ba to? At kay LA siguro, kay Sean, may years pa ako eh, pwede pa kay LA, di ba? Real talk, LA. Wow, baka umabot na ako ng retirement, hindi na ako makalaro. How did the whole break make you think about your career, the sport, your health? How did it change the way you approach the game? Sean, I'll start with you.
Well, ako, Boss Shaky, even though, kasi honestly, I believe now a lot of people will consider those times na it was very hard, very challenging, of course, mentally rin. But, ito galing to sa mom ko, we would always dapat reside to hope, you know.
Yeah.
And kasi I believe na, we're athletes, 'di ba? This is our lifestyle eh. So, during yung break na yun, hindi kami pwede magpabaya eh. Kasi,
Mm.
ito yung future namin eh. So, sinasabi lang ng dad ko nun, like, pinili nyo yan, even though na ganito yung situation natin ngayon, you guys have to work on it, 'di ba? So, yun lang. Even though we weren't training in school, even the situation was different, we really chose to still live that lifestyle, is to train every day, take care of our bodies. And it's just, just made me realize na, even though whatever life gives you, you really have to stick to your goal. You really have to pursue it. Kahit ano pang, uh, what do you call it, mga roadblock or whatever is
Uh-huh.
waiting for you ahead. You just really have to go through it because it's just really a small hump, di ba? It just matters kung paano mo siya you'll overcome it. So, yun lang.
Nice to hear that your family plays a huge part, no, in making sure that you stay the course, 'di ba, and continue to inspire especially the younger ones na
Yes.
may tulad mo rin, no, may pangarap na umabot sa PBA. LA, ikaw naman, you're in the group na special group ka of athletes, particularly in the PBA sa mundo ng basketball. Yung mga kabatch mo, no, and I'll throw a couple of names here and there. You got the Jason Castros here, sila Ryan Reyes are still in the PBA just like you. But a lot of people look up to you dahil undoubtedly ikaw talaga ang leader ng Barangay Ginebra at ikaw ang kumakatawan dun sa maraming Pilipino na hindi biniyayaan ng height pero ang puso napakalaki, no? With the pandemic that came in, tapos yung mga nangyari sa iyo, yung appendectomy mo and all that, how did that change your approach in the game, sa buhay, sa health mo?
Um, well, it really, during this pandemic, no, it made me realize a lot of things, no. Actually, na-realize ko, you're right, actually, kanina, sinabi mo na you never know if I can still play, no?
Mm-mm.
Ah, Kasi nga, ilang years na lang din ako, compare kay Sean, di ba? And I also, before, naisip ko rin before na when we were starting to play already in the bubble, we were talking about it also na can we still play in front of the crowd before I
Yeah.
retire? May mga
Yeah.
bagay na gano'n na iniisip ko na before also eh. But during the pandemic, no, it made me realize na you really have to cherish the moment and enjoy the moment, no? Especially during the pandemic, it's a blessing in disguise also na na I got to spend time with my family because during the normal season, no, nung
Yes.
walang pandemic, wala akong time to spend time with my whole family because I go to practice. Sometimes we have out of town games, we have out of the country games, and then our practices is twice a day. And then I work out, I do my therapy and everything. So wala akong chance to spend time with my family. But during the
Mhm.
pandemic, katulad na sinabi ni Sean, wala tayong ibang babalikan kundi or sasamahan or kumbaga kailangan ng support is our family, no? Yun lang yung na-realize ko. And also made me realize also while playing na as soon as I step on the court, no, I always think that this might be the last game of my career, or the surge of virus will be, is this the last? Probably hindi natin alam,
Oo.
di ba? Kung naglaro tayo, baka magkaroon ulit ng surge, and then the basketball will stop again. That's why yun yung sinasabi ko, na cherish the moment, enjoy the moment, and in the end of the day, we have to be grateful and thankful also, no, sa lahat ng meron tayo, no. I was also, if I can share, no, during the pandemic
Go.
also, I had an episode also of, thinking of, parang medyo hindi naman siya hindi naman sa medyo actually medyo na depressed, no. Nagkaroon ako ng time na I stopped working out for a month because I never know, hindi ko na alam if this is gonna be, kung saan lahat ng ginagawa ko ba magagapit ko pa, alam mo
Oo.
yun. Workout every day, twice a day, I have a program, I do my diet every day, but dumating yung time na I have to, parang I stop, and then isip ko, what's the point, no?
Yes.
What's the point
Yes.
of hindi naman natin alam kung matutuloy pa ba yung basketball, di ba? So nagkaroon ako ng time na yan, and that's why sinabi ko na you really have to enjoy and cherish the moment, especially with your family. It's really, in the end, yung family mo magbibigay ng strength sa'yo talaga. And, just keep on praying, and then, thinking na maging grateful ako and thankful ako, dahil kahit we're practicing or we're working out in the house, we still have our salary back then. Hindi nila tinanggal yung salary namin. And besides, yung problem na iniisip ko, may naisip ko lang na merong ibang tao sa labas ng bahay ko na mas malaki pa ang problema kaysa sa akin. So, kumbaga parang ako, bakit kailangan ito isipin ko? I have to, that's why I have to, get back on track, and then, just enjoy, and be thankful and be grateful in everything that we have. It doesn't matter kung ano man yan. Work, sports, basketball, family, di ba? So, yun lang. It made me realize. That's why every time I play, it's always for my family, for the fans na nanonood ngayon sa atin yung sa PBA, and of course to all the young ones like Sinashan, for me to be a inspiration and role model to them, no. Yun actually, that's why I keep on going ngayon, hindi, not because I want to win a lot of championships. Yes, that's the goal, but I am not into getting all the awards, the individual awards. Yes, championship is part of it, but I think that's why I'm still here. It's because to be an inspiration, to be a role model to young players like Sean and the other rookies. So yun.
Ganda no shinare mo, LA. Sean, ganda no shinare mo. I think even the fans, si Mona agreeing with you, LA. Si Prakash is also agreeing with you guys if you check the comment section, no. And good way to as we near the end of the show, good way na nasabi niyo yan. Pero remind ko lang yung mga audience natin, fans natin, stay with us because mayroon pa tayong 8 trivia questions, may prizes tayo para sa inyo, tsaka yung certificate of attendance using the QR code. So hang in there. Pahabol na tanong, quick answer ha. Ano tayo dito? Quick fire ulit tayo, quick fire. Sean, para sa'yo, what would be the best time to exercise or workout? Ako tinatanong ni Mona Gaspar Lagata. Morning or evening, and why? Quickly, Sean.
For me, I'd love to work out in the morning, first of all, kasi
Morning.
para tapos na. And if you work out in the morning kasi boss, if you work out in the morning kasi boss Chiki, you're in a fasted state. So you parang mas makaka-lose fat ka pa. So yun lang, for me, personal preference, I love to work out in the morning.
Thank you, Sean. LA, ano ikaw, morning or
Same, in the morning. I prefer morning because you're fully rested, no, before working out. So you came from sleep, di ba? So
Yeah.
importante yun eh. And of course, definitely, you're not gonna work out if you lack sleep. Katulad na
Yes.
sinabi
Yes.
ni Coach Kale kanina. So, yun.
And ako rin, Mona, if I may add, subukan mo lang sa umaga kasi yung happy hormones, 'di ba? Pagkatapos mag-exercise, no? Parang ang saya mo, 'di ba? Parang it kicks your day off really well, and you get to plan the things that you need to do for the rest of the day. Okay, bago kayo pakawalan, Sean and LA, I'd like to hear your final words, message, and a good opportunity to invite your fans to continue supporting, in your case, Sean, Rain or Shine, LA, Hinebra naman, and to invite them to watch the coming Commissioner's Cup dahil I'm sure naghahanda na kayo. Sean, I will start with you.
I just want to thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for everyone for joining us today. Salamat po sa lahat ng sumusuporta, hindi lang po sa akin, but to my whole family, and of course to Rain or Shine. And for this upcoming season, supportahan niyo po kami, nila Kuya LA, lahat po ng PBA teams as we battle it out, because it's gonna be a really exciting conference. So I just want to wish everyone good health, stay healthy, and God bless na rin. So yun lang, Boss Chiki.
Thank you, Sean. May import na ba ang Rain or Shine? May import na ba ang Rain or
Meron
Shine?
na po, actually. Kahapon lang nag-sign. Ano siya,
Are you okay? Are you okay to reveal it? Okay lang ba to reveal o secret muna? Wala pa.
Yeah, they posted. His name's Daniel Ochefu. He played in Villanova. Former, ano rin
Nice.
siya, former Washington Wizards. Tapos, he's coming from the KBL. Import rin siya dun. So, yeah, really
Nice.
excited
Nice.
to move forward with it. Yeah.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you, and good luck to you and to the Rain or Shine Last Painters. And ngayon ko lang na-realize na pareho kayo ng tatay mo na na-cover ko pala. So, wow. It's an honor to cover the dad
Parang dyan,
and then
tapos
ikaw.
yung basa-basa. Tandang-tanda
Di
ko
ba?
yun.
So,
Oo.
looking forward na yung kapatid mo rin pagdating, nandun pa rin kami sa coverage team. LA, ikaw naman, anong mensahe mo sa lahat ng nanonood at chance to invite ang mga taga-barangay para suportahan kayo?
First of all, thank you Gatorade for having me here, and Sean also. Thank you for the opportunity, and of course, thank you to all the listeners and to all the viewers na nandito. Sana marami kayong natutunan sa amin, and of course to the previous speakers. Thank you. Stay healthy, stay safe, and God bless everyone. Don't forget to support, of course, Barangay Ginebra and PBA. It's gonna be a exciting conference this coming conference, Commissioner's Cup, and meron tayong guest team na we're very excited to play against. So para may konting flavor naman this coming conference. So you're gonna be enjoying. You're gonna love it, and you're gonna enjoy the game. So thank you, and God bless everyone. Stay healthy.
May nag-text sa akin, babalik ba si JB para sa Commissioner's Cup?
Hindi na. Kailangan ko ba i-reveal yun?
Hindi, para pampa-excite lang. Is he coming
Of
back?
course. Yeah.
Justin Brownlee?
Siya naman. Oo, wala na yata kami iba import na tinitingnan. Yun na yun
Mukhang
eh.
ano,
Even
mukhang siya ulit. Okay.
610 limit this conference, siya pa rin ang import namin. So, yun.
Fantastic. So, again, palakpakan po natin Shirley Defonso from the Rain or Shine Alaska Painters, and of course, the General representing the Barangay Ginebra at Tubong, Batangas, LA Tenorio. Guys, maraming salamat sa inyo. Thank you for that nice, intimate, open sharing natin ngayong gabing ito, at stay safe, stay healthy, and see you soon sa darating na Commissioner's Cup. Sean, LA, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So again, wrap up na yan sa ating interaction with Sean and LA. Ngayon naman, as pangako sa inyo, dahil meron pa tayong close to 5,000 viewers, ito mapapanalunan ninyo. Ulitin ko lang, we got this nice gray shirt from Gatorade. Nothing beats Gatorade. Sir Mikey, Ms. Melay, the whole Gatorade team, maraming salamat sa inyo. But wait, there's more. Nice socks. Siyempre, kailangan ilabas ko yan para makita ninyo. Very nice. When you go back to training or doing your favorite sporting activity, or namamasyal lang kayo. And of course, you need to always have a very nice and sturdy bottle that you can put your favorite Gatorade flavor in it, whether ito ba yung no sugar or yung classic flavors na gusto ninyo, put it here kasi very handy, madali squeeze bottle. All of that will be put inside this very nice backpack. I would call it a training backpack that you can bring anywhere pag nag-ehersisyo kayo. Okay? Sa gym man or dyan sa favorite running area ninyo or kung maglalaro kayo ng basketball. So, how do you get these prizes? It's so easy. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. Flash namin yung question dyan sa screen ninyo, screen namin dito. And all you have to do is when you know the answer, type it. Pabilisan po ito. The fastest person to answer the questions will win. And how do you know that you are the winner? Our team from Gatorade, our social media team, will get in touch with you privately. So make sure that you monitor your messages para malaman po ninyo if you're the winner and how you can claim the cool prizes that I just mentioned. So here we go. Pabilisan na. Question number 1. I hope you paid attention to our presenters kanina. Question number 1. What does GSSI stand for? Go! Type it away, type it away. We got over 4,000 viewers here. Type it away. You have to type that. GSSI. I've been mentioning that the whole time. Paunahan. That's right. Antonio Paslon Bernales. Paunahan po ito. And then our team will find out who is the lucky winner. I go to question number 2. 8 chances of winning here. When was GSSI first established? If you paid attention dun sa aking opening kanina, nagpakita kami ng a few slides there. When was GSSI first established? Okay? Type it away, type it away. Eh, yun. Sabi nga ni Mona, naku, pag mabagal ang net, sorry na agad. Totoo yan. So, make sure walang gumagamit ng internet ninyo. Question number 3. Fill in the blank ito. May isang blank lang tayo dito. GSSI aims to blank, hydrate, and dominate. So, punan nyo yung blankong yan. GSSI aims to blank, hydrate, and dominate. That's our third question. Type away, type away. Sige lang, nihintay natin. I'm looking at the chat room dito. Yung mga iba sumasagot pa ng first question. Kung nakita nyo may mga sumagot na, jump na kayo. Tumato si Mary Grace. So, nagbigay na ng answer. Very good, Jump na, jump. I go to the fourth question. Kaya rin kay Coach Kale kanina to. I hope you, especially the dads, no, the moms, may mga anak dyan. How many times a week should the young ones, youth aged 5 to 17, perform strength exercises? May particular slide dyan si Coach Kale, and I hope you paid attention to that. So I'll give you a few more seconds. Type your answer. Sige lang. That's question number 4. Okay? Take note of that question. I jump to question number 5. Kung meron tayo pang 5 to 17, how many times a week naman should adults aged 18 to 64 perform strength exercises involving major muscle groups? Okay? Yan yung chest, di ba? Back, legs. So, how many times a week should people aged 18 to 64 perform strength exercises involving major muscle groups? Sagot na, sagot. Type away, type away. I see Marco, I see Robert, Jessa typing their answers. Okay? Si Franz din nag-join in. Patrick is there too. I jump to question number 6. What does SAID stand for? What does SAID stand for? I hope you paid attention. Sayang t-shirt, medyas, water or Gatorade bottle here, no? Squeeze bottle, and you have your backpack here as well. That's question number 6. I believe we have 2 more questions. Ipa-flash natin dito sa screen. Question number 7. Hang in there. Galing naman to sa presentation ni Liam Brown if you paid attention earlier. Okay, we'll flash it on your screens in a few. Nakita ko na yung mga sumasagot sa SAID. Very good, guys. You know the answer. Ang tanong na lang, sinong nauna? Okay, question number 7. What can contribute to injury risk or high injury risk? What can contribute to injury risk? Answer that question. Again, kung kayong una dyan, kayo ang lucky winner ng shirt, socks, Gatorade bottle, squeeze bottle, and Gatorade backpack. And finally, our 8th question. Aside from fluid, what do we lose every time we sweat? Yung importanteng nawawala sa atin. Aside from fluid, what do we lose every time we sweat? Kaya nga importante, di ba? Meron tayong may tubig ka, pero mahalaga na meron kang Gatorade. So what do we lose aside from fluid every time we sweat? So answer away, please. Go, 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 go. Gonna give you guys a few more seconds here. And as mentioned, our social media team will be taking note of all the winners, yung mga fastest gun in the West dyan. Sila ang mga papala rin. And will message you privately so you can please do check your messages. Sa mga iba nagtanong, pwede ba may topic ba on marathon, on running, on badminton? Guys, meron tayong 4 episodes. 1 down, 3 to go. If you want to have more topics, go type away, suggest kayo sa Facebook ni Gatorade and you'd be surprised. Baka kung hindi man makover ng GSSI Webinar 2022, baka sa 2023 maisama natin yan. Okay? So, our first episode is done. Stay tuned for our next one. It's going to be on September 1. So, 2 linggo tayong magpapahinga muna. And it's called Fueling the Young, the Importance of Sports Among the Youth, with Coach Darren Hartman from the GOM Football Center of Excellence, Dr. Molly Malyari from the Department of Sports Science at UP, and our very own Richie Rivero from the UP basketball team. September 1, huwag nyo kakalimutan po, Fueling the Young. Okay, so that's about it for our first episode. That concludes our episode. Palakpakan naman tayo dyan. Thank you very much for attending the first of our GSSI webinars sa 2022. For those of you who stayed until the end and you want that certificate of attendance, we'll be flashing the QR code right after I say bye-bye. Para po sa mga coming from na nag-participate kayo na sa ating GSI, coming from our experts itong certificate na to and our friends from the Gatorade Sports Institute. Okay, so having said that, paalam po sa inyo and I'll see you all on September 1 on behalf of all our guests, our team here at Gatorade. My name is Chicky Brother Bengareya saying thank you very much. It's 6:27 in the evening. I hope you guys have a good dinner ahead of you, have a safe dinner ahead of you, have a good week ahead of you, and hope to see you all on September 1 for our episode 2, Fueling the Youth. That's your GSSI webinar session 2. So again, Chicky Reyes saying good night and see you all on September 1.